My husband pressured my mom to include him in her will, but doesn't want me in his father's will. He is now calling me a gold digger, and his family is harassing me. My husband and I got married about 3 years ago. We don't have any children together, but I have 3 kids and he has 2 from previous marriages. We each only have 1 child still living in our home, and we plan to retire early, as we both have a decent amount in savings. Most of my husband's money does come from his family, as they are very well off. Recently, I got a phone call from my father-in-law, asking me to come over for lunch. When I did, he asked me if his son mentioned his will. I told him that it had never come up before. He explained that a few weeks ago, he was discussing his plans for his will with my husband, and brought up how he planned to leave a good sum to me and my 3 children. My husband apparently told him I wouldn't like that idea, as I wouldn't want anyone to see me as a gold digger. This threw my father-in-law off, as he didn't understand what that had to do with anything. My husband said he would talk to me about it, but it was probably best to leave us out of the will, and put it towards his 2 biological children instead. He hadn't heard back from my husband yet, so that was why he had invited me over. I told him I knew nothing of that conversation. He asked if I felt the way my husband described, and I told him no. If he chose to leave money to me or my children, I would appreciate it, but I was also never expecting it to happen in the first place. I just sort of sat there, staring off into space for a moment, because I couldn't help but find the entire situation ironic. About a year after I got married to my now husband, my mom had a health scare. She asked me to help her draw up a will, just in case. When I told my husband about it, he asked if he or his 2 children would be placed in the will. I told him I didn't know, but that would be up to my mom. He said she should add them, as we were a family now and adding them to the will would be symbolic, making us all an official family. I told him I'd ask, but wouldn't push the topic. I mentioned it to my mom, who said she was unsure, as she really didn't have much to give anyway. Eventually she did add all 3 of them to her will, and I found out later my husband had actually spoken to her about it. I found it odd that he pushed the issue, since both him and his kids are set up to inherit an incredible amount if anything happened to his dad, but just assumed he meant for it to be symbolic. Now, here I was talking to his father, who was telling me he wanted to add my children and I to his will, and my husband refused. I started crying, wondering why he would lie about this, and shared with my father-in-law what had happened 2 years ago. He got upset, and said he would talk to his son about the entire thing. I told him I was leaving, and on my way out, he told me that he knew I was a kind person who cared for both my own children and his grandchildren. No matter what may come in the future, he planned to leave me with something. He just hoped it would do me more good than harm if his family tried to fight it. I thanked him and left. A few days later, my husband came home and started screaming at me. He told me I had no right to speak to his father, especially about money that wasn't mine, that I was showing my true colors finally, revealing I had been after his family's money all along. I asked him to calm down. I said, "You are the one who should be getting yelled at. You, who pressured my mom into adding you in her will, saying it was only symbolic. Now your father actually wanted to add me to his will, and you told him not to. You didn't even talk to me about any of this." He said that the difference was that he was testing my family to see if they cared about him, while I was proving I was only after the money. I called him an idiot, and he called me a bee. The kids came into the room at that point, and so he grabbed his daughter and said they were leaving, and not to expect them back anytime soon. My son asked what was going on, and I told him I honestly didn't know. It has been weeks now, and he hasn't answered any of my calls or texts. His mom has been leaving me messages non-stop though, saying I had no right to hurt her son, and she knew I was a bad apple from the start. Now it seems she has gotten more family members in on it, so I have a huge number of egotistical rich people harassing me now, for something I had nothing to do with. I left a message with my father-in-law, asking him to please remove me from the will in order to stop the harassment. It quieted down after I sent the text, but still haven't gotten a reply from him or my husband. I'm not even sure what is going on, but I do have a feeling I should get a lawyer soon, at the very least, to prepare for a divorce if my husband continues to ignore me.